She was working 3 jobs and falling asleep in libraries. He was a millionaire CEO who donated millions to that same library. They should never have crossed paths, but when they did, it started something neither of them expected, a connection so real that when the world found out, it tried to destroy them both. This is the story of what happened when love collided with pride, poverty collided with privilege, and 2 people had to decide what they were willing to sacrifice. The crystal chandeliers of the Charleston Harbor Resort ballroom cast dancing shadows across Ethan Blackwell's tailored Tom Ford suit as he shook hands with yet another enthusiastic donor. The annual College of Charleston fundraising gala had been, by all accounts, a resounding success. $5 million raised in a single evening. Another wing for the science building approved, another plaque with his company's name engraved in bronze, another night pretending he belonged in rooms filled with old money and older prejudices. "Mr. Blackwell, your generosity continues to astound us," Dean Morrison gushed, his bourbon-sweetened breath invading Ethan's personal space. "That library renovation you funded last year, simply magnificent. The students practically live there now." Ethan smiled the smile he had perfected over 7 years of board meetings and investor pitches, the smile that never quite reached his eyes. "Education is an investment in our future, Dean. I'm simply grateful Blackwell Tech can contribute. If only you knew I once studied in a library that smelled like mildew and broken dreams," Ethan thought, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter he would not drink. "If only you knew I wore the same pair of jeans for 3 years straight." By 11:30, Ethan had fulfilled his social obligations. He had smiled. He had networked. He had written checks that would make his accountant wince. Now, with the salty Charleston breeze calling to him through the resort's French doors, he made his escape. His driver, Marcus, raised an eyebrow when Ethan slid into the back of the black Mercedes. "Home, sir?" "Actually," Ethan loosened his bow tie, suddenly feeling suffocated by silk and expectations. "Take me to the college." "The Addlestone Library." "Sir, it's nearly midnight." "I know what time it is, Marcus. I just want to see it. The library we renovated. I haven't actually been inside since the ribbon cutting." Marcus knew better than to argue with his employer's occasional whims. 20 minutes later, the Mercedes glided to a stop in front of the imposing brick and glass structure that housed over 500,000 books and the dreams of thousands of students. The building glowed against the darkness, its modern glass walls a stark contrast to the historic architecture surrounding it. Ethan had insisted on that design, a beacon of light and knowledge visible from blocks away, a lighthouse for students drowning in darkness, just like I once was. He used his donor keycard to enter through the main entrance, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the polished marble floors. The library was supposed to close at midnight, but the security guard at the desk, a kind-faced man whose name tag read Walter, simply nodded in recognition. "Evening, Mr. Blackwell. Surprised to see you here so late." "Just wanted to see how the space is being used," Ethan replied, genuinely curious. "Anyone still here?" Walter chuckled, pointing toward the 3rd floor. "Always a few stragglers. We usually do a sweep at midnight, but I give the hard-working ones an extra 15 minutes. You know how it is. Finals season approaching, students burning the midnight oil." "I know exactly how it is," Ethan thought, heading toward the elevator. "I remember falling asleep on organic chemistry textbooks, waking up with equations imprinted on my cheek." The 3rd floor was dedicated to the sciences, biology, chemistry, nursing. His mother's floor, he thought with a familiar ache in his chest. She had dreamed of becoming a nurse, had managed 2 semesters before the cancer diagnosis that changed everything. The floor was silent except for the humming of the air conditioning and the distant sound of the city beyond the windows. Rows of study carrels stretched into the dimness, most empty now, chairs pushed in, computers dark. But at the very end of the row, near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Marion Square, a single desk lamp glowed like a tiny sun. Ethan's curiosity pulled him forward. She was slumped over a massive anatomy textbook, her honey-blonde hair creating a curtain around her face, one arm stretched across the pages, as if trying to absorb the information through osmosis. Her other hand still clutched a yellow highlighter, its cap missing, leaving a small mark on the desk where it had rolled. She wore scrubs, pale blue, wrinkled, with what looked like coffee stains on the sleeve. Her canvas sneakers, visible beneath the desk, were worn thin at the toes and held together at one heel with duct tape. But what struck Ethan most was her face. Even in sleep, even with exhaustion etched into the delicate shadows beneath her eyes, there was something luminous about her, something that reminded him of his mother, that same determination, that same quiet strength that spoke of battles fought daily and barely won. On the desk beside her anatomy book lay a crumpled schedule, and Ethan, knowing he was invading her privacy but unable to stop himself, leaned closer to read it. Monday, Hyman's Seafood, 6 a.m. 2 p.m. College of Charleston classes, 3 p.m. 7 p.m. Quickmart, 8 p.m. 12 a.m. Tuesday, classes 8 a.m. 12 p.m. Hyman's Seafood, 1 p.m. 9 p.m. Wednesday, Quickmart, 6 a.m. 12 p.m. Classes 1 p.m. 5 p.m. Cleaning services, 7 p.m. 11 p.m. The schedule continued, a relentless blur of jobs and classes with almost no gaps for sleep, let alone living. 3 jobs, full-time student. And based on the nursing textbooks surrounding her like a fortress of knowledge, she was in one of the most demanding programs the college offered. Something twisted in Ethan's chest, part admiration, part recognition, part something else he could not quite name. He should wake her. The library would close soon. But standing there, watching her breathe slowly in the cocoon of light from that single lamp, Ethan found himself paralyzed by an unfamiliar feeling. He had not felt truly moved by another human being in years. His phone buzzed. A text from his COO. Board meeting 7 a.m. Review the Shanghai projections. Reality crashed back. He was Ethan Blackwell, CEO of a company worth $300 million. He had conference calls with Tokyo and contract negotiations with Berlin. He did not have time to stand in libraries watching strangers sleep, no matter how much they reminded him of the struggling student he used to be. He turned to leave. Wait. Her voice was rough with sleep, slightly slurred with exhaustion. Ethan froze. She lifted her head slowly. Strands of hair stuck to her cheek where she had been pressed against the textbook. Her eyes, extraordinarily blue, like the Charleston harbor on a clear morning, struggled to focus on him. "Is it closing time already?" she asked, already gathering her books with practiced efficiency despite her obvious exhaustion. "I'm sorry. I just needed 5 minutes. I have my molecular biology exam tomorrow, and I worked a double shift. And She stopped abruptly, her sleep-fogged brain apparently registering who stood before her. You're Ethan Blackwell." Her eyes widened. "Oh my God, you're the Ethan Blackwell, from the plaque, and the—" She gestured vaguely at the building around them. "This library." Ethan smiled, and for the first time that evening, it was genuine. "Guilty as charged, and you are." "Mortified," she said, her cheeks flushing pink. "I'm Emily Parker." "I'm so sorry. I know donors probably don't expect to find students passed out on the furniture they paid for." "Emily," Ethan interrupted gently, "may I ask you something?" She nodded, still gathering books with shaking hands, clearly mortified beyond recovery. "Why 3 jobs?" Her hands stilled. "You read my schedule." "I did. I apologize." "It's fine," she said quietly, but her voice carried an edge of defensive pride. "I work 3 jobs because college isn't free, even with scholarships. Because my grandmother needs medication that insurance doesn't fully cover. Because nursing school requires specific scrubs and equipment and certification fees that add up faster than I can count. Because some of us don't have trust funds or family companies to fall back on." The words were not cruel, just honest. Facts stated plainly by someone too tired for pretense. Ethan found himself respecting her even more. "My mother wanted to be a nurse," he said quietly, surprising himself. He never talked about his mother. She made it 2 semesters before she got sick. She used to fall asleep on her textbooks too. I'd find her at our kitchen table at 2 in the morning, highlighter in hand, fighting to stay awake. Emily's expression softened. Did she make it? Did she become a nurse?" "No," Ethan said simply. "Pancreatic cancer. She died when I was 16. "I'm sorry," Emily whispered, and the compassion in her voice was so genuine, so unguarded, that Ethan felt something crack in the carefully constructed walls around his heart. "It's why I donate to the nursing program specifically," he continued. Every scholarship, every grant, it's for women like her. Women like you, people who want it badly enough to work themselves into exhaustion for it. Emily stood slowly, her anatomy book clutched to her chest like armor. She barely reached his shoulder, this tiny, fierce woman in coffee-stained scrubs and duct-taped shoes. That's beautiful, Mr. Blackwell. Really. But I should go. I have exactly 5 hours before my next shift starts, and I need at least 3 of those to be unconscious. Let me drive you home, Ethan said impulsively. No. The refusal was immediate and non-negotiable. Emily, I don't accept rides from strangers, even philanthropic millionaire strangers. I have pepper spray and a very loud whistle, and I'm perfectly capable of taking the bus. Despite himself, Ethan laughed, a real laugh that echoed through the quiet library. Fair enough, but the buses stopped running an hour ago. Emily's face fell as she checked her phone. Damn it, I have a driver, Marcus. He's been with me for 5 years, has 3 daughters, and would absolutely never forgive me if I let a young woman walk home alone at midnight. You can take his card, photograph his license, text his information to 10 friends, whatever makes you comfortable. But please, let me do this one small thing. Emily studied him for a long moment, those blue eyes seeing far more than he was comfortable with. One condition, she finally said, name it. Don't think this makes us friends, and don't think you can, I don't know, pretty woman me or something. I'm not a charity case. Ethan smiled. Noted. Shall we? As they walked toward the elevator, Emily's stomach growled, a sound so loud in the quiet library that they both froze, then burst into laughter. When did you last eat? Ethan asked. Does coffee count as food? Absolutely not. Then probably yesterday morning. And that was how Ethan Blackwell, CEO of Blackwell Tech, found himself at 2 in the morning in a 24-hour Waffle House on Meeting Street, watching Emily Parker devour a stack of pecan waffles with an intensity that suggested she was attacking a personal enemy. This is the best thing I've ever tasted, she mumbled through a mouthful of waffle, all pretense of dignity abandoned. I've been living on ramen and vending machine coffee for 3 weeks. That explains the coffee stains, Ethan observed. These are battle scars, Emily said seriously, pointing to her scrubs. Each stain represents a shift survived, a customer who didn't yell at me, a patient I helped comfort. I wear them with pride. Ethan found himself enchanted by this strange, fierce, exhausted girl who fell asleep on textbooks and wore her poverty like armor. Tell me about your grandmother, he said. And there, in a Waffle House that smelled like syrup and burnt coffee, under fluorescent lights that made everyone look slightly deceased, Emily Parker told Ethan Blackwell about Rose Parker, 78 years old, former schoolteacher, current diabetes patient, maker of the world's best peach cobbler, and the only family Emily had left in the world. Ethan listened. He asked questions. He learned that Emily was from a small town called Walterboro, 40 miles away. That she had won a partial scholarship, but it covered only tuition, not living expenses. That her dream was to work in pediatric oncology, because children fighting cancer deserved nurses who understood that healing was as much about hope as medicine. Like your mother would have wanted, Ethan said quietly. Like your mother would have been, Emily corrected. When Marcus finally dropped Emily off at a small, slightly shabby house on the east side of Charleston, she turned to Ethan with an expression he could not quite read. Thank you for tonight. The ride, the food, the conversation. It was my pleasure, Emily Parker. But this doesn't change anything, she added firmly. I'm not a project. I'm not someone you get to fix because it makes you feel good about your privilege. I wouldn't dream of it, Ethan lied, because driving away from that house, watching Emily's silhouette disappear through a door that hung slightly crooked on its hinges, Ethan Blackwell made a decision that would change both their lives forever. He was going to help Emily Parker achieve her dreams, even if she fought him every step of the way. Emily's molecular biology exam went surprisingly well for someone running on 3 hours of sleep and a stomach full of Waffle House. She answered questions about cellular respiration and protein synthesis, with the kind of clarity that only comes from desperate, exhausted studying, and perhaps a touch of divine intervention. Or maybe it was the waffles. Never underestimate the power of actual food. You're smiling, her best friend and classmate Jennifer Martinez observed as they left the science building. You never smile after exams. You usually look like you're planning the professor's murder. I had waffles at 2 in the morning, Emily said dreamily. Okay, you've officially lost it. Sleep deprivation has finally broken you. With Ethan Blackwell. Jennifer stopped walking so abruptly that a student behind them nearly collided with her backpack. I'm sorry, what? Ethan Blackwell, as in the Ethan Blackwell, CEO guy, library plaque guy, stupidly gorgeous Forbes 30 under 30 guy? He found me asleep in the library last night, Emily explained, trying to sound casual and failing spectacularly. We talked. He bought me waffles. It was nice. Nice, nice. Emily Parker, a billionaire bought you breakfast and you're calling it nice. I'm staging an intervention. He's not a billionaire, just a millionaire. There's a difference. Oh, excuse me. Only a millionaire. How disappointing for you. Emily laughed despite herself. Jennifer had been her anchor since freshman year, the daughter of Cuban immigrants who understood the particular exhaustion of working your way through college, while your classmates complained about their parents cutting their allowances. It was just a random encounter, Emily insisted, as they walked toward King Street. He was being nice, philanthropic. That's literally his job. Uh-huh. And did this random nice encounter involve him looking at you like you hung the moon? Because I've seen his interviews, Em. That man doesn't smile at anyone. He's basically a gorgeous robot in expensive suits. He smiled at me. Oh, you're so screwed. Emily's shift at Hyman's Seafood started in 30 minutes. She changed in the restaurant's cramped bathroom, trading her school clothes for the white button-down shirt and black pants that constituted her uniform. The shirt was getting tight across the shoulders. She had bought it 2 years and several stress-eating sessions ago, but new clothes were a luxury she couldn't afford. The lunch rush hit like a hurricane. Tourists wanting she-crab soup and shrimp and grits, locals arguing about the best way to prepare oysters, a bachelorette party that ordered 7 rounds of sweet tea and left a $3 tip on a $200 bill. Emily smiled through it all. Her feet screamed. Her back ached. But she smiled because smiles sometimes translated to tips, and tips translated to her grandmother's insulin. She was clearing table 7 when she saw him. Ethan Blackwell sat at a corner booth, looking absurdly out of place in his charcoal suit and silk tie, studying the menu with the intensity most people reserved for legal documents. Emily's first instinct was to hide in the kitchen. Her second instinct was to march over and demand to know if he was stalking her. Her third instinct, the one she unfortunately followed, was to approach his table with her server smile firmly in place. Welcome to Hyman's Seafood. Can I start you with something to drink? Ethan looked up, and his face broke into that genuine smile she had seen last night, the one that made him look less like a CEO and more like a person. Emily, what a coincidence. Is it, though? She raised an eyebrow. Charleston has approximately 200 restaurants, Mr. Blackwell. What are the odds you randomly chose the one where I work? Please, call me Ethan, and I'll have you know Hyman's is a Charleston institution. I've been meaning to try it for months. Uh-huh. Sweet tea or unsweetened? Surprise me. Emily brought him sweet tea because unsweetened tea in the South was basically a crime, and took his order for she-crab soup and the blackened mahi-mahi. She tried to treat him like any other customer. She failed miserably, hyper-aware of his presence throughout her shift. He stayed for 2 hours, ate slowly, read something on his phone, ordered coffee, left a tip that made Emily's hands shake when she cleared his table. $500 on a $30 meal. She found him in the parking lot, the crisp November air carrying the salt smell of the harbor. I can't accept this. She thrust the bills toward him. It's a tip, Emily, for excellent service. It's ridiculous. It's more than I make in a week here. Exactly my point. Ethan's expression was gentle but firm. You work 3 jobs to survive. Let me help make that slightly easier. I don't need your pity. It's not pity. It's recognition. You worked 4 tables simultaneously while that bachelorette party treated you like their personal servant, and you never once lost your smile. That's worth $500 in any universe. Emily wanted to argue. She wanted to maintain her pride, her independence, her carefully constructed walls that kept people from seeing exactly how close to breaking she was. But $500 meant groceries, meant her grandmother's medication, meant maybe, just maybe, she could cut 1 shift this week and actually sleep. Thank you, she whispered, pocketing the money with shaking hands. Have dinner with me, Ethan said suddenly. What? Tomorrow night. Actually dinner, not Waffle House at 2 a.m. Let me take you somewhere nice. I work tomorrow night. What time do you finish? 10 p.m. But I'll be exhausted and smell like cleaning products and 10:30 then. I'll pick you up from wherever your last shift is. Emily studied him in the parking lot light, this millionaire CEO who had somehow wandered into her chaotic life like a character from a novel she would never have time to read. Why? She asked quietly. Why are you doing this? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Because when I was 18, I worked 3 jobs too. I wore the same shoes until they fell apart. I studied in libraries until security kicked me out. I know what it feels like to be invisible, Emily, and you deserve to be seen. Something in Emily's chest cracked open. Okay, she heard herself say. Dinner, but somewhere casual. I don't own anything fancy. Deal. The next day brought chaos. Emily's morning class was cancelled. The professor had the flu, which should have been a blessing, but instead threw off her entire carefully calibrated schedule. She arrived at Quickmart for her afternoon shift to find her manager, Doug, in a foul mood. Parker, we need to talk. Doug was 45, balding and perpetually angry at the universe for making him manage a convenience store instead of fulfilling whatever dream he had abandoned decades ago. What's wrong? Corporate's cutting hours. I can only give you 15 hours a week now instead of 20. The floor tilted beneath Emily's feet. Doug, I need those hours. I have bills. We all have bills, Parker. You think I want to cut hours? Find another job if you need more money. I already have 3 jobs. Not my problem. Emily spent her shift in a daze, scanning items and bagging groceries while her mind raced through calculations. 5 fewer hours a week meant roughly $400 less per month. $400 she absolutely did not have to lose. She was still spiraling when Ethan's Mercedes pulled up outside the Quickmart at exactly 10:30 that night. He took one look at her face and said, "What happened?" And there, in the passenger seat of a car that probably cost more than her grandmother's house, Emily burst into tears. She told him everything. The cut hours. The impossible math of her existence. The fear that kept her awake at night, that one car repair, one medical emergency, one unexpected expense would topple the precarious tower of her life. Ethan listened. He did not interrupt, did not offer empty platitudes, did not try to fix everything with his checkbook. He just listened. "I have an idea," he said finally, "but you're going to hate it at first." "What?" "Come work for Blackwell Tech as my assistant. Entry-level position, 40 hours a week. Benefits. Actual benefits, Emily. Health insurance, dental. A salary that would let you quit your other jobs." Emily stared at him. "You're offering me a job? Just like that?" "Not just like that. I've been looking for an assistant for months. Someone organized, hard-working, capable of managing chaos. You work 3 jobs and maintain a 3.8 GPA in one of the most demanding programs at the college. You're exactly what I need. I don't have office experience. I've never worked in tech. I can teach you tech. I can't teach work ethic, and you have that in abundance." It was perfect, too perfect, the kind of opportunity that people like Emily didn't get. "What's the catch?" she asked suspiciously. Ethan smiled ruefully. "The catch is that you'd have to quit school. The job is 40 hours a week and you couldn't maintain your class schedule." And there it was, the impossible choice. Financial security or her dream of becoming a nurse. The thing she had sacrificed everything for. The goal that had sustained her through every exhausting shift and sleepless night. "I can't," Emily whispered. "I can't quit school. Not when I'm this close. 1 more year and I'm done. 1 more year and I'm everything I promised my mother I would be before she died." Ethan nodded slowly. "I understand. But the offer stands, if you change your mind." They sat in silence, the weight of impossible choices pressing down on them both. "Can we still have dinner?" Emily asked finally, her voice small. "Even though I turned down your job offer?" "Emily Parker," Ethan said seriously, "I want to have dinner with you because you're brilliant and fierce and you make me laugh, not because of any job offer. Now I know you said somewhere casual, but I took the liberty of making a reservation at Peninsula Grill. And before you argue, they have she-crab soup that will make you weep. And I already called ahead to ensure they have comfort food available because I suspect you need comfort food right now." Emily laughed through her tears. "You're ridiculous. I'm efficient. There's a difference." Peninsula Grill was everything Emily had heard and never experienced. White tablecloths, candlelight, a sommelier who treated wine selection with religious reverence. Emily felt absurdly out of place in her Quickmart polo and jeans, but Ethan ordered for them both: she crab soup, coconut cake, shrimp, and grits that tasted like heaven, and talked about everything except jobs and money and impossible choices. He told her about growing up in a trailer park in North Charleston, about his mother's determination to give him opportunities she never had, about building his first computer from salvaged parts and teaching himself to code in the public library. "I was you," he said quietly, "eating ramen, wearing second-hand clothes, working myself half to death for a chance at something better. I know what it costs, Emily. I know what you're sacrificing." "Then why offer me a job that would make me sacrifice even more?" "Because I'm selfish," Ethan admitted. "Because I want you in my life and I'm trying to create a legitimate reason for you to be there. Because every moment I spend with you makes me remember why I fought so hard to escape poverty in the first place, so I could have the freedom to choose, to help, to maybe make one person's impossible choices slightly less impossible." Emily's phone buzzed. A text from her grandmother. "Sugar's at 300. Took insulin. Don't worry. I'm fine." She wasn't fine. 300 was dangerously high, and Emily was sitting in an expensive restaurant eating coconut cake while her grandmother struggled alone. "I have to go," Emily said abruptly, already standing. "I'm sorry, my grandmother. I'll drive you. You don't have to." "Emily." Ethan was already signaling for the check. "Let me help." 20 minutes later, they were at Rose Parker's small house, where Emily found her grandmother sitting calmly at the kitchen table, testing her blood sugar again. "Baby girl, I told you not to worry," Rose said, but her voice was weak. "And who is this handsome gentleman?" "Ethan Blackwell, ma'am." "A friend of Emily's." "Blackwell?" Rose's eyes sharpened despite her exhaustion. "Any relation to Sarah Blackwell? She was a nurse at the hospital before she got sick." Ethan went very still. "That was my mother." "I remember her," Rose said softly. "Kind woman, brilliant. She talked about her son constantly, how proud she was, how hard he worked." She looked at Ethan with understanding that made him distinctly uncomfortable. She'd be proud of the man you became. Something passed between them: recognition, respect, shared grief for a woman who had died too young. Emily checked her grandmother's vitals, gave her water, made sure she was stable. When Rose finally fell asleep on the couch, too exhausted to make it to her bedroom, Emily and Ethan sat on the front porch steps in the November cold. "I'm sorry," Emily said. "This is not how I imagined this evening going." "Emily, you have nothing to apologize for. I'm a mess. My life is a mess. You should run very far away from this disaster." Ethan turned to face her, his expression intense. "I don't want to run. I want to stay. I want to help. I want to—" He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. "I want to know you. Really know you. Not despite the chaos, but including it. All of it." "Why?" Emily whispered. "Because you remind me that success means nothing if you forget where you came from. Because you're everything I used to be, and everything I hope I still am underneath the suits and the board meetings. Because when I'm with you, I feel real again." Emily leaned her head on his shoulder, too exhausted to maintain her walls any longer. "I'm going to fall in love with you," she said quietly, "and it's going to be a disaster." "Maybe," Ethan agreed, "but maybe it will be the best disaster either of us ever survived." They sat in the cold, watching the Charleston sky lighten with approaching dawn. Two people from the same world trying to find their way back to each other. Neither noticed the figure watching from across the street, a man in a dark jacket, taking pictures on his phone, uploading them to a tabloid website with a headline already forming: "Blackwell Tech CEO's Secret, Slumming with Local Waitress." The storm was coming. They just didn't know it yet. Emily discovered she was internet famous at 7:15 on a Thursday morning, courtesy of Jennifer's panicked phone call. "Have you seen it? Please tell me you've seen it before someone else shows you." "Seen what?" Emily mumbled, still half asleep on Rose's couch where she had crashed after checking on her grandmother throughout the night. "Jen, I have pharmacology in 45 minutes. Can this wait?" Charleston Gossip posted photos of you and Ethan Blackwell, with a headline about him slumming with the help. It's everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Someone even made a TikTok. Emily's blood turned to ice. She found the article within seconds. There she was, in her wrinkled quick-mart polo, sitting on her grandmother's porch steps with Ethan Blackwell's arm around her shoulders. Another photo showed them at Peninsula Grill, laughing over coconut cake. A third captured them in the Waffle House parking lot at 2 a.m. The article was brutal. Tech Millionaire's charity case, Ethan Blackwell spotted with 3-job waitress. Is this romance or a PR stunt? Sources say the Blackwell Tech CEO has been mentoring local student Emily Parker, 22, who works multiple minimum wage jobs to support herself and her elderly grandmother. But late-night dinners at Charleston's finest restaurants suggest this may be more than philanthropy. Is Blackwell genuinely interested, or is Parker just another feel-good story for his portfolio? The comments were worse. Hundreds of strangers weighing in on her life, her worth, her motivations. Gold digger alert. She's pretty, though. Can't blame him. This is so fake. Rich guys don't date broke girls unless there's an angle. Plot twist. She's probably pregnant and trapping him. Emily made it to the bathroom before she threw up. Her phone exploded. Text messages, social media notifications, even a friend request from a gossip blogger asking for an exclusive interview. Her Quick-Mart manager called, demanding to know if she had signed a confidentiality agreement. A local news station wanted a comment. And through it all, nothing from Ethan. She turned off her phone and went to class because what else could she do? Her molecular pharmacology professor droned on about drug interactions, while Emily sat in the back row, feeling 300 eyes burning into her skull, even though only half the class had probably seen the article. Probably. Jennifer found her after class, armed with coffee and righteous fury. Whoever wrote that hit piece deserves to have their hard drive investigated. That's some seriously nasty journalism. It's not journalism, it's gossip. It's character assassination. They made you sound like some kind of opportunistic... Jennifer stopped, her expression shifting from anger to concern. Em, you're shaking. I'm fine. You're absolutely not fine. Has Ethan called? No. Texted? No. That absolute... Jennifer bit off whatever colorful description she was about to use. Want me to key his car? Despite everything, Emily laughed. That would be a terrible use of your pre-med hands. Those hands can do many things, including property damage in defense of my best friend. Emily's phone, which she had reluctantly turned back on, buzzed. Not Ethan. His assistant, someone named Caroline. Mr. Blackwell would like to meet with you today at 2 p.m. Blackwell Tech headquarters. He'll send a car. Not are you okay? Not, I'm sorry. Just a summons, delivered through an assistant like she was a business appointment. Don't go, Jennifer said, reading over her shoulder. He doesn't get to ignore you all morning and then snap his fingers expecting you to come running. But Emily went anyway, because she needed to know. Needed to understand if the past few days had been real or if she was actually just another checkbox on a millionaire's redemption to-do list. Blackwell Tech occupied 3 floors of a gleaming glass building near the Charleston harbor. The lobby was all marble and modern art, filled with people in expensive clothes having important conversations. Emily, in her jeans and College of Charleston hoodie, felt like an imposter. Caroline turned out to be a blonde woman in her 30s, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Miss Parker, Mr. Blackwell is in a meeting but should be free shortly. Can I get you water? Coffee? I'm fine. Of course. Caroline's gaze swept over Emily's outfit with the kind of judgment that needed no words. The meeting room is this way. Emily was left alone in a glass-walled conference room overlooking the harbor. She could see the College of Charleston campus from here, the library where this had all started glowing in the afternoon sun. It felt like years ago instead of days. 45 minutes passed, then an hour. Emily was about to leave when the door finally opened, but it wasn't Ethan who entered. It was a man in his 60s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Emily's car. Behind him, a woman with a tablet and an expression of professional disdain. Miss Parker, I'm Richard Chambers, Blackwell Tech's chief legal officer. This is Diana Foster, our head of PR. He sat down across from her with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. We need to discuss your relationship with Mr. Blackwell. Where is Ethan? Mr. Blackwell is managing the fallout from this morning's unfortunate publicity. We're here to help you. Help me? Diana leaned forward. "Miss Parker, we understand you may not have intended for your friendship with Mr. Blackwell to become public. These things happen, but now that it has, we need to control the narrative." "Control it how?" "We'd like to offer you a settlement." Richard slid a document across the table. $200,000. In exchange, you sign a non-disclosure agreement, make a brief statement that you and Mr. Blackwell are simply friends, and discontinue any personal contact with him. The room tilted. "You're paying me to go away." "We're protecting both of you," Diana corrected. "This kind of attention could damage Mr. Blackwell's reputation and frankly make your life unbearable. The internet can be cruel. This is the cleanest solution for everyone." "Does Ethan know you're doing this?" Richard's expression flickered, just for a moment, with something that might have been discomfort. "Mr. Blackwell understands that his company's interests must come first." "That's not an answer." "Miss Parker." "No." Emily stood abruptly. "I don't want your money. I don't want your non-disclosure agreement. And I definitely don't want to be managed by lawyers who think I'm some kind of threat to be neutralized." "You're making a mistake," Diana said coldly. "That article this morning was just the beginning. By tomorrow, reporters will be digging into every aspect of your life. Your grandmother's medical history, your jobs, your grades. Every embarrassing moment from high school will be fair game. We can make that stop. By erasing me from Ethan's life? By protecting you both." Emily grabbed her bag. "Tell Ethan if he wants to end whatever this is, he can tell me himself. Not through lawyers. Not through payoffs. Himself." She was halfway to the elevator when she heard his voice. "Emily, wait." Ethan looked exhausted. His tie was loose, his usually perfect hair disheveled. Dark circles under his eyes, suggesting he had slept as poorly as she had. "Did you know?" Emily demanded. "About the lawyers, the settlement?" He ran a hand through his hair. "They told me they wanted to talk to you. I didn't know about the money. But you let them. You hid in your meeting while your legal team tried to buy me off like I'm some kind of problem to be solved. That's not—" "Emily, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" "That this morning's article was right. That I'm just a charity case. A feel-good story for your portfolio. You know that's not true." "Do I?" Emily's voice cracked. "Because from where I'm standing, you've been playing hero while I've been the damsel in distress who needed saving. Poor Emily with her 3 jobs and her sick grandmother. How noble of you to swoop in and fix everything. That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair?" Emily laughed bitterly. "I'm trending on Twitter as waitress gold digger. My managers are questioning whether I signed NDAs. Strangers are speculating about whether I'm pregnant, and you spent the morning in meetings while your lawyers tried to erase me. So forgive me if I don't care about fair right now." "I was trying to protect you." Ethan's voice rose, frustrated and desperate. "I know how this world works, Emily. I know how fast it can destroy someone who doesn't fit the narrative. I've seen it happen. I didn't want that for you. So you decided to make choices for me, without asking, without even calling to see if I was okay." Ethan had no answer for that. "This morning," Emily continued, her voice quieter now, but no less fierce, "I had 3 jobs, student loans, and a sick grandmother. But I had my dignity. I had my choices. I had my life. Now I have lawyers offering me money to disappear, and a millionaire who thinks he knows what's best for me. Emily, I need space. From you. From this. From all of it." She pressed the elevator button with shaking hands. "Maybe your lawyers are right. Maybe the cleanest solution is for me to go back to being invisible. At least then I knew who I was." The elevator doors opened. Emily stepped inside. "I'm falling in love with you," Ethan said suddenly, desperately. "I know it's too soon and too complicated and possibly the worst timing in history, but I am. And I don't want to lose you." Emily's finger hovered over the door close button. "Then you should have called. You should have been there. You should have fought for me instead of letting lawyers do it for you." The doors closed on Ethan's stricken face. Emily made it to the street before the tears came. She walked without direction, just walking, past the Battery, past Rainbow Row, past tourists taking photos and street performers playing music, all of it washing over her like she was underwater. Her phone rang. Ethan. She declined the call. It rang again, and again, and again. Finally she answered. "What? Where are you?" His voice was tight with worry. Walking. Emily, please. Come back. Let's talk about this properly. Not through anger and hurt feelings. Really talk. What's there to talk about, Ethan? You're a millionaire CEO. I'm a broke nursing student. This was never going to work. That's not true. Yes, it is. Emily stopped walking, stood on the sidewalk near Waterfront Park, tourists flowing around her like she was a stone in a river. You live in a world where lawyers fix problems and money solves everything. I live in a world where $500 is life-changing and cut hours mean I can't pay rent. We're not the same, Ethan. We were never the same. We're exactly the same, Ethan said fiercely. I grew up in a trailer park, remember? I wore second-hand clothes and ate ramen and worked myself sick for a chance at something better. The only difference between us is timing and luck and maybe some good investments. The difference is you escaped, you made it out, and I'm still drowning. Then let me throw you a lifeline. I don't want a lifeline. Emily's voice broke. I want to save myself. I need to save myself. Don't you understand? If I let you rescue me, I'll never know if I could have done it on my own. I'll always wonder if I was strong enough, or if I just got lucky because a millionaire decided I was worth saving. Silence on the other end of the line. What do you want from me? Ethan asked finally, his voice raw. I want you to be my equal, not my savior. How can I be your equal when you won't let me help? Exactly. Emily wiped her eyes. That's the problem, isn't it? You can't help being the guy with money and power, and I can't help needing both. We're stuck. So what now? Now I go back to my 3 jobs and my impossible schedule. You go back to your board meetings and your company. We forget this ever happened. I can't forget you, Emily Parker. Try harder. She hung up before he could respond. That night, Emily worked her cleaning shift at a downtown office building, scrubbing toilets and mopping floors while the city glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows. She imagined Ethan somewhere in that glitter, at a restaurant maybe, or in his penthouse apartment she had never seen, living a life that would never include her. Her phone buzzed. Not Ethan this time. Her grandmother. Baby girl, come home. We need to talk. Emily found Rose sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and a printed copy of that morning's article. Her grandmother had circled certain passages in red pen like she was grading a paper. Sit, Rose commanded. Emily sat. This article says you've been seeing Ethan Blackwell romantically. It's complicated, Grandma. Is it true? Was true. Past tense. It's over now. Rose studied her granddaughter with the sharp eyes that had once kept 33rd graders in line. Why? Because his lawyers offered me $200,000 to disappear. Because he's rich and I'm poor and those things don't mix. Because I can't be with someone who sees me as a problem to be solved. Did he see you that way? Or is that what you decided? Emily blinked. What? Baby girl, I've watched you build walls around yourself since your mama died. Walls made of pride and fear and the desperate need to prove you don't need anyone. And I understand why. But sometimes walls keep out the wrong people. He tried to buy me off, Grandma. No, his lawyers did he? He let them. Or maybe he panicked. Maybe he made a mistake because he's young and in love and doesn't know how to protect someone without taking control. Rose reached across the table to take Emily's hand. Your mama did the same thing, you know. Pushed away anyone who tried to help. Died before she could learn that accepting love isn't the same as being weak. Emily's throat tightened. I don't know how to be with someone like him. Someone who could fix all my problems with a phone call. It's not fair to him. Life's not fair, baby. But that doesn't mean you stop fighting for it. That boy's mother, Sarah, she would have loved you. Would have recognized that same stubborn strength. And she would have told you the same thing I'm telling you now. Being poor doesn't make you less worthy of love. It just makes you more aware of what love costs. But what if I'm not strong enough? What if I let him help and then I become someone who depends on it? What if you are strong enough? What if love doesn't make you weak? It just makes you brave enough to be honest about needing someone. Rose stood, kissed Emily's forehead and shuffled toward her bedroom. Think about it, and maybe answer the boy's calls. He's phoned here 6 times tonight. Very persistent. I like that in a person. Emily sat alone in the kitchen, her grandmother's words echoing in the silence. Her phone buzzed. Ethan calling for the 7th time. She answered. Emily, I'm sorry, she said quietly, for running, for assuming the worst, for not letting you explain. No, I'm sorry, I should have called immediately. Should have fought for you instead of letting my team try to manage the situation. I panicked. Why? Because I'm terrified. His voice was raw, honest. Terrified of hurting you, of being another rich guy who steamrolls over someone's life, of losing you because I'm too much or not enough or fundamentally incapable of being what you need. What do you think I need? I don't know. That's what scares me. I can code software and negotiate contracts and build companies, but I have no idea how to love someone without trying to fix everything. Maybe start by asking me what I need instead of assuming. Okay. A pause. What do you need, Emily Parker? I need you to stop trying to save me. I need you to trust that I can save myself, with or without your help. I need you to be patient while I figure out how to let someone in without losing myself. And I need you to understand that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is just stand beside me. Not in front of me, beside me. I can do that. I want to do that. Even when it's hard? Even when you see me struggling and you want to throw money at the problem? Even then, I'll probably fail sometimes, but I'll try. That's all I'm asking. They sat in silence, connected by phone lines and hope. Emily, yeah? Will you have breakfast with me tomorrow? Just breakfast. No waffles at 2 a.m., no fancy restaurants. Just coffee and conversation. Equals. Emily smiled for the first time all day. I'd like that. Good. Because I have approximately 37 more apologies prepared, and I'd really like to deliver them in person. 37? That's very specific. I'm an engineer. We're specific people. After they hung up, Emily sat in her grandmother's kitchen and let herself believe, just for a moment, that maybe love didn't have to be perfect to be real. Maybe it just had to be honest. 3 weeks passed in a careful dance of boundaries and growing trust. Ethan and Emily met for coffee twice a week, always in public, always casual, always with Emily paying for her own drink despite Ethan's protests. They talked about everything except money and the future, existing in a fragile bubble where a millionaire CEO and a broke nursing student could simply be two people getting to know each other. It was imperfect and awkward and absolutely wonderful, until the morning Emily's phone rang at 6 a.m. with news that shattered everything. Miss Parker, this is Charleston Medical Center. Your grandmother was brought in by ambulance an hour ago. She's stable, but you need to come immediately. Emily barely remembered the bus ride to the hospital, her mind stuck on one terrible loop. Please don't take her, not yet. I'm not ready. Rose was in the ICU, her small body dwarfed by machines and tubes. A young doctor with kind eyes explained about diabetic ketoacidosis, insulin levels, kidney function. Emily heard the words through a fog of terror. How long has she been skipping her insulin? The doctor asked gently. She wouldn't. But even as Emily protested, she knew. The half-empty insulin bottles, Rose's insistence that she was fine, baby, don't worry. The way she had been rationing medication because insurance only covered so much, and Emily's cut hours meant less money for co-pays. Her grandmother had been slowly dying to save Emily money. The treatment will stabilize her, the doctor continued, but she'll need intensive management going forward, daily monitoring, possibly home health care, definitely more frequent endocrinologist visits, and... He hesitated. I'm required to inform you that her current insurance may not cover all of this. You should speak with our financial counselor about payment plans. Payment plans. As if Emily could squeeze more blood from the stone of her already impossible budget. She sat beside Rose's bed for 6 hours, holding her grandmother's hand, watching machines breathe for her, drowning in guilt and helplessness and rage at a system that forced people to choose between medication and groceries. Her phone buzzed. Ethan, how was your pharmacology exam? She had missed it, had completely forgotten about the exam she had been studying for all week, which meant she would fail the class, which meant she would lose her scholarship, which meant everything she had sacrificed for was crumbling around her while her grandmother fought for life in an ICU bed. Emily turned off her phone and put her head in her hands and finally let herself break. She didn't hear him arrive, didn't notice his presence until she felt a hand on her shoulder and looked up to find Ethan standing there, still in his suit from whatever meeting he had abandoned, his face etched with concern. Jennifer called me, he said quietly. Told me what happened. I came as soon as I could. You shouldn't be here. Emily's voice was hollow. I'm fine. I can handle this. Emily! I said I'm fine. The words came out too loud, too sharp. Several nurses glanced over. "Just go back to your perfect life and let me deal with mine." Ethan didn't move. Instead, he pulled up a chair and sat beside her in that sterile hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and fear. "I'm not leaving," he said simply. "You don't have to talk to me. You don't have to acknowledge I'm here, but I'm not leaving you alone in this." Something in Emily cracked. She was rationing her insulin. Because of me, because I couldn't make enough money to cover everything, because I was so proud, so determined to do it all myself, that I didn't notice my grandmother was dying. "This isn't your fault, isn't it? I chose to go to college instead of working full-time. I chose my dreams over her health. You chose to become a nurse so you could help people exactly like her. That's not selfish, Emily, that's love. Love doesn't pay for insulin." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "What if I could help? Not as charity, not as some white knight rescue, but as someone who cares about you and doesn't want to watch you destroy yourself because you're too proud to accept help. We've had this conversation." "I know, but that was before. Before your grandmother was in the ICU. Before you missed an exam that could cost you your scholarship. Before the stakes got this high." He turned to face her fully. "I have a proposition. An actual business proposition, not a handout." Despite herself, Emily was listening. "Come work for Blackwell Tech. Part-time, 20 hours a week. We'll structure it around your class schedule. You'd help with our new community education initiative, teaching coding to underprivileged kids. It's not charity, Emily. It's a job I genuinely need filled, one you're uniquely qualified for because you understand what it's like to fight for education. How much would it pay? Enough to cover your grandmother's medical expenses, enough to let you quit one of your other jobs, enough to give you breathing room without compromising your independence." It was perfect. Too perfect. The answer to prayers Emily hadn't dared pray. "What's the catch?" she asked suspiciously. "The catch is, you'd have to trust me. You'd have to believe this is real work, not a disguised handout. You'd have to let me into your life in a concrete way, not just coffee dates where we pretend money doesn't matter." Emily looked at her grandmother, so small and fragile in the hospital bed, looked at the monitors tracking her every heartbeat, thought about insulin and endocrinologists and payment plans and impossible choices. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Relief flooded Ethan's face. "Really? Really? But I'm taking this job because I'm qualified, not because I need it. And if I find out you created this position just for me—" "I didn't. I've been planning this initiative for 6 months. Ask my entire staff. They'll confirm I'm terrible at community outreach and desperately need someone who actually understands the communities we're trying to serve." For the first time in hours, Emily smiled. "When do I start?" "Monday. If that works with—" He stopped as 2 men in suits entered the ICU waiting area, looking official and uncomfortable. "Mr. Blackwell?" The older one approached. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation at headquarters. The Shanghai deal, there's been a complication." Ethan's expression hardened. "What kind of complication?" "The kind that requires your immediate presence. Boards threatening an emergency vote if you're not there in 30 minutes. Emily saw the conflict play across his face. Duty versus staying with her. She made the decision for him. "Go," she said firmly. "Your company needs you. Emily, I'll be here when you get back. Go save your empire." He hesitated, then kissed her forehead. Quick, gentle, full of promises. "I'll be back in 2 hours, 3 tops. Don't make any major decisions without me. I'm 22. Making terrible decisions is basically my job description." He laughed despite the tension, then rushed out with his attorneys flanking him like Secret Service agents. Emily sat alone again, but somehow less alone than before. An hour later, the financial counselor appeared, a woman named Patricia, with a sympathetic expression, and a tablet full of numbers that made Emily's stomach churn. "Miss Parker, your grandmother's treatment will cost approximately $40,000, and that's just for the immediate hospitalization. Ongoing care will be several thousand per month. Do you have insurance? Family who can help?" "I have me," Emily said, "and I'm starting a new job Monday. I can make payments." Patricia's sympathy deepened, which was somehow worse than skepticism. "I understand. We'll set up a payment plan, but I have to be honest. Unless you're starting a very high-paying job, these payments may not be manageable alongside your other expenses." Emily thought about Ethan's offer. About 20 hours a week, that could mean the difference between life and death for Rose. She thought about pride and independence and the luxury of refusing help when help was all that stood between you and catastrophe. "I'll figure it out," she said with more confidence than she felt. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should see this," followed by a link. Against her better judgment, Emily clicked it. The headline made her blood run cold. Blackwell Tech facing hostile takeover. CEO's romance scandal weakens board confidence. The article detailed how investors were concerned about Ethan's erratic behavior, spending time with a low-income waitress instead of focusing on business. How the Shanghai deal was falling apart because Ethan had missed crucial negotiations to pursue his charity case girlfriend. How board members were questioning his judgment and considering replacing him as CEO. Every insecurity Emily had tried to suppress came roaring back. She was destroying him. Her presence in his life was literally costing him his company, the thing he had built from nothing, the dream he had sacrificed everything to achieve. Just like she was destroying her grandmother by not being able to afford proper care. Just like she was destroying herself by refusing to admit she was drowning. When Ethan returned 3 hours later, Emily had made her decision. "I can't take the job," she said before he could even sit down. "What? Why?" "Because you're losing your company because of me. Because every minute you spend helping me is a minute you're not saving everything you've built. Because I'm not worth that price." "Emily, that article is garbage." "My company is fine. Is it? Is the Shanghai deal fine? Is your board confident in your leadership? Or are they questioning every decision because you're distracted by the broke nursing student?" Ethan's silence was answer enough. "I thought so." Emily stood, gathering her things. "This was a mistake, all of it. You need to focus on your life, and I need to focus on mine. Separately. Don't do this." Ethan's voice was desperate. "Don't let some hack journalist destroy what we're building." "What are we building, Ethan? You're a CEO trying to save his company. I'm a student trying to save my grandmother. We don't have time for romance. We have time for survival. I love you." The words hung in the air between them, simple and devastating. "I love you too," Emily whispered. "That's why I'm leaving. Because love means wanting the best for someone, even when it destroys you. And the best thing for you is a CEO who isn't distracted by impossible situations. The best thing for me is learning to stand on my own without leaning on a millionaire every time life gets hard. That's not love. That's martyrdom. Maybe, but it's all I know how to do." She walked out of the ICU, out of the hospital, into the Charleston afternoon that smelled of salt and impending rain. Behind her, Ethan didn't follow. Ahead of her, an impossible future stretched like a desert. Her phone buzzed one last time. "Ethan, this isn't over. I'm not giving up on us." Emily turned off her phone and boarded the bus home, watching the city blur past through tears, wondering if doing the right thing was supposed to feel like dying. In the ICU, Rose Parker opened her eyes and immediately asked the nurse where her granddaughter had gone. When told Emily had left, she sighed deeply. "That girl," she muttered, "so much like her mother, always sacrificing herself for everyone else. Someone needs to teach her that accepting love isn't weakness." "Your granddaughter seems very strong," the nurse observed kindly. "Oh, she is. But even the strongest people break eventually. The question is whether someone will be there to catch them." Rose closed her eyes and prayed that stubborn girl of hers would learn the lesson before it was too late. Some battles you couldn't fight alone, no matter how desperately you tried. The last light in the library. Chapter 5. The light that never goes out. 2 weeks felt like 2 years. Emily threw herself into survival mode, with the kind of desperation that came from having nothing left to lose. She picked up extra shifts at Hyman's, negotiated a payment plan with the hospital that would take approximately 17 years to complete, studied for her makeup pharmacology exam between customers and cleaning jobs, her eyes burning with exhaustion and unshed tears. Rose recovered slowly, stubbornly, with the kind of determination that ran in their family. She asked about Ethan exactly once. Emily's expression must have been answer enough, because Rose never mentioned him again. But late at night, lying on the couch because she had given Rose the only bedroom, Emily would pull up Ethan's contact information and hover her thumb over the call button. She never pressed it. Instead, she would read his texts, dozens of them, sent daily despite her silence. Day 1. I respect your decision, but I don't accept it. You're not getting rid of me this easily. Day 5. The Shanghai deal closed. Company's fine. You didn't destroy anything except my ability to focus on anything but you. Day 10. Rose's hospital bills have been paid. Before you get angry, it wasn't charity. It was an investment in my future mother-in-law's health. Yes, I said future. Deal with it. Day 14. I miss you. That's all. Just, I miss you. Emily wanted to be angry about the hospital bills, wanted to maintain her pride, her independence, her carefully constructed walls. But mostly she was just tired. Tired of fighting alone. Tired of pretending strength was the same as never needing anyone. Tired of missing him like a physical ache. The morning of her makeup exam, Emily arrived at the College of Charleston to find the science building surrounded by news vans and cameras. Her first thought was terror. Had something happened? Another scandal? Then she saw the banner. Blackwell Tech announces major education initiative, and there, on a makeshift stage near the library where this had all begun, stood Ethan Blackwell addressing a crowd of students, faculty and reporters. Emily should have left, should have gone to her exam. Instead, she found herself drawn forward, hiding at the back of the crowd, listening. Education shouldn't be a luxury, Ethan was saying, his voice carrying across the quad. I built my company from a laptop in a library, teaching myself to code because I couldn't afford classes. I'm only standing here today because institutions like this one gave me a chance when nobody else would. He paused, his gaze sweeping the crowd. Emily could have sworn he looked directly at her, though logically he couldn't see her from that distance. Which is why Blackwell Tech is establishing a $50 million endowment for the College of Charleston, specifically designated for students who work multiple jobs to afford their education. Full scholarships, living expenses, medical coverage for their families, because nobody should have to choose between their dreams and their grandmother's insulin. The crowd erupted. Emily's knees went weak. $50 million. Full scholarships, medical coverage, for students like her. Additionally, Ethan continued, we're launching the Sarah Blackwell Memorial Nursing Program, named for my mother, who dreamed of becoming a nurse before cancer stole that chance. This program will provide comprehensive support for nursing students, including guaranteed employment at Charleston hospitals upon graduation, and full tuition coverage for anyone who commits to working in underserved communities. Emily was crying, standing in the back of the crowd, tears streaming down her face, no longer caring who saw. Some people have suggested, Ethan said, his voice taking on an edge, that my recent focus on education reform and community investment represents a distraction from my company's interests. Those people are wrong. Blackwell Tech exists because education gave me opportunity. Giving that opportunity to others isn't a distraction. It's the entire point. And if my board disagrees, they're welcome to find a new CEO. Applause thundered across the quad. One more thing. Ethan's voice softened. I once met someone in a library at midnight. She was asleep on her anatomy textbook, exhausted from working 3 jobs and carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. She taught me that success means nothing if you forget where you came from. That strength isn't refusing help. It's having the courage to accept it. That love isn't about saving someone. It's about standing beside them while they save themselves. Emily couldn't breathe. Emily Parker, Ethan said, now looking directly at her. He had seen her. I know you're out there somewhere, probably hiding in the back and planning to yell at me later for making this public. But I need you to hear this. You didn't destroy my company. You saved it. You reminded me why I started this in the first place. Not to make money, but to make a difference. The crowd parted as Emily moved forward, without consciously deciding to, drawn by something stronger than pride or fear. I'm standing beside you, Ethan continued, his eyes locked on hers as she approached the stage. Not in front, not behind, beside, as equals, as partners, as 2 people who climbed out of poverty and refused to forget what that climb cost. Will you stand beside me too? Emily reached the stage. Ethan met her at the steps, and the crowd and cameras and expectations all faded into background noise. You paid my grandmother's hospital bills, she said. I invested in family. You created an entire scholarship program. I created opportunity. For you and hundreds of others. That's not charity, Emily, that's revolution. You're impossible. I'm in love with you, there's a difference. Emily laughed through her tears. I have a makeup exam in 15 minutes. Skip it. You already qualified for the Sarah Blackwell Memorial Scholarship. Full ride, medical coverage for Rose, guaranteed job at Charleston Medical Center upon graduation. I pulled some strings. That's very presumptuous of you. I'm an efficient person. We've discussed this. He reached for her hand. Emily Parker, will you please stop trying to save the world alone and let me help? Not because you need me to, but because we're better together than apart. Emily looked at this impossible man who had wandered into her library and her life and refused to leave, who had seen her at her worst and decided she was worth fighting for, who understood that sometimes love meant grand gestures and sometimes it meant just standing beside someone in the chaos. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll stand beside you. Okay, I'll accept the scholarship. Okay, I'll let you into my life in all the messy, complicated, beautiful ways. She smiled through tears. But I'm still taking that exam. I studied for it, and I'm going to ace it, because that's what I do. Ethan laughed, pulled her close and kissed her in front of 500 people and a dozen cameras. It was imperfect and public and absolutely perfect. I love you, he said against her lips. I love you too. Even though you're ridiculous, especially because I'm ridiculous. That night, Emily sat in Rose's kitchen. Their kitchen, she corrected herself, because Ethan had insisted Rose move into a better house with proper accessibility and medical equipment, and Emily had finally stopped fighting him on it and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the desperate hope of someone drowning, but the steady hope of someone who had learned to swim and discovered she didn't have to do it alone. Her phone buzzed. Jennifer, you're trending on Twitter as Scholarship Queen. I'm so proud I could cry. Then Ethan, dinner tomorrow? I'm cooking. Fair warning, I'm terrible at cooking, but I'm excellent at ordering takeout and pretending I made it. Emily laughed, responded to both and opened her pharmacology textbook because some things didn't change just because your life did. She would still study until midnight, would still work hard for everything she achieved, would still fight for her dreams with every ounce of strength she possessed. But now, when she looked up from her books, she wouldn't be alone in the darkness. She would be standing in the light. Taktakthame. The end. 1 year later, Emily Parker graduated summa cum laude from the College of Charleston nursing program. Rose sat in the front row, healthy and beaming. Ethan held her hand throughout the ceremony, his pride visible to everyone. 3 months after that, he proposed in the Addlestone Library at midnight, in the exact spot where he had first found her sleeping on her anatomy textbook. She said yes before he finished asking, because some love stories begin in darkness and end in light, and some lights never go out.